Good morning to everyone. Today we are going to study about the new topic, that is sources, effects and control measures for air pollution. So before air pollution, we should know what we mean by environmental pollution. It is defined as any undesirable changes in the physical, chemical or biological characteristics of any components of the environment. What should the components? Air, water, soil, which can cause harmful effects on various forms of life or property. This is called as environmental pollution. We can define air pollution in different ways. Air pollution is the presence of harmful or excessive quantity of substances like gases, dust, fumes, or smoke in the atmosphere that are injurious to humans, animals, plants, and the environment. So next is what are the classification of air pollutants? So the first classification is the primary pollutants. What do you mean by primary pollutants? These are the emitted directly from the point source. Example, carbon dioxide, oxides of nitrogen, oxides of sulfur, hydrocarbons, radioactive substances. We can see this diagram. This is the point source. Chimney is the point source through which emission is going to take place. So this, whatever the pollutants are going to emit through the chimney directly into the atmospheres, we can call it as primary pollutants. Next is the secondary pollutants. Are not directly emitted but are formed through chemical reactions between primary pollutants and the natural atmospheric components. What should be natural atmospheric components? Sunlight, water vapors. So when these primary pollutants are going to react in presence of sunlight and water vapor, in that case, the secondary pollutants will generate. Example, ozone, peroxyethyl nitrate, photochemical smokes. These are the example of secondary pollutants. So what are the various sources of air pollution? Normally there are two sources. The first one is the natural sources and second is the man-made sources, which is also called as anthropogenic sources. So first we shall talk about the natural resources. Natural resources of air pollution are defined as a sources not caused by the people in the activities that are going to be generated by naturals, right? Naturally. For example, volcanic eruption emits sulfur dioxide, hydrogen sulfide, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, ash, and particulate matter. The emission from an eruption, volcanic eruption, may be of such magnitude as to harm the environment for a considerable distance from the volcanic source. So this is the one of the diagram for the volcanic eruptions. So next, natural resources, natural sources of air pollutions are forest fire. Naturally occurring fires caused by lightning or drought condition emit large amounts of pollutants that can travel long distances. Such a fire emits large quantities of pollutants like carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, nitrogen oxides, hydrocarbons, and particulate matters in the form of a smoke and soot when the forest fire is going to take place. This also comes from the natural sources of air pollution. Next air pollution source, natural source is the dust storms. High winds in arid and semi-arid regions lift dust and soil particles into the atmospheres, reducing visibility and cause respiratory problems. Normally, it emits particulate matter PM10 and PM2.5. PM10 means particulate matter having particle size less than 10 microns, and PM 2.5 means the particles having the size is less than 2.5 micron size. Minerals and microorganisms. Arid regions means what? Arid regions are true deserts, extremely dry with minimum vegetation. Semi-arid regions, which we have discussed here, which we have shown here. Semi-arid regions are the transition zones between the deserts and humid areas, so having slightly more rainfall and vegetation. So due to dust storms, what is going to happen? Visibility reductions. So it causes severe highway accidents and also can affect the air travel, right? And the dust storms. Particulate matter transferred by dust storms from the desert to urban areas causes problems to householders, industries, and automobiles. The next natural sources of air pollution is oceans of the world. The ocean normally we can see continuously emit the aerosols to the atmospheres in the form of salt particles which are corrosive to metal and paints. The action of waves on the rocks, as we know in the oceans, waves continuously generates. So what happens? It reduces the rocks into the form of sand, which ultimately become airborne. Even the sails washed up on the beach are eroded by wave and tidal action, reduced a small size airborne particles. So this is the one of the natural sources of air pollution. Next is the plants. Some plants they generate pollen grains into the atmosphere, which causes the respiratory distress and allergic reaction in the humans. So next natural source is the salt lake water. Sulfur gases from hot springs also fall into the categories. In that, the odor is extremely strong when close to the source, but disappears a few kilometers away. We can see in some of the areas where the water, we can see the water is hot falling from the springs because of the sulfur content in the rock. So there, sulfur is also one of the source of the pollutants, which is going to generate naturally. Next, we can see man-made sources of the air pollution, which is the anthropogenic. It is also called anthropogenic sources. The first one is the industrial emission. Factories, power plants, and refineries release pollutants like sulfur dioxide, oxides of nitrogen, carbon dioxide, carbon monoxides, particulate matters, PM10 and PM2.5, and volatile organic compounds, VOCs. So this is the thermal power plants which generates sulfur dioxides and oxides of nitrogens in addition to the fly gas, which also generates through the chimney. So next man-made sources is the vehicular emissions. Cars, buses, trucks, and motorcycles emit carbon monoxide, nitrogen oxides or oxides of nitrogen, hydrocarbons, particulates in the form of a soot. The third man-made source is the burning of fossil fuels. When we are going to use the coal, petrol, diesel, and natural gas in the form of a fuels, right, during combustion in the industries or power generation in thermal power plants and domestic cooking, heating releases different type of pollutants like carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, and other harmful gases. Next man-made sources of air pollution are agricultural activities. We know that farmer understand that more use of fertilizers can give more production, but it is not like that. Use of fertilizers and pesticides releases ammonia, methane from paddy fields and livestock. Crop residues burning adds particulate matter and carbon monoxide. As we know that the many farmers are burning the parali. You can see the parali crop residues that generates the particulate matters and carbon monoxide in the direction of the wind. So next is the waste burning and landfills. Open burning of garbage releases carbon monoxide, dioxins, furans, and methane in the atmospheres. The next man-made source is the household sources. Whenever we are going to use the wood, dung, coal for cooking and heating, it creates the air pollution. Aerosol sprays, paints, and cleaning chemicals releases volatile organic carbons. What do you mean by aerosol spray? It is a pressurized system used to release substances like paint, deodorant, insecticide, or air fresheners in the form of a fine mist or spray. It causes the air pollution. So this comes under the man-made sources. Next, we can see the next topic is the effect of air pollution. And the first one is the effect on human health. See, there are various factors which have impact of pollutants on the human health. What are the various factors which causes the impact? For example, nature of pollutant. Which type of pollutants are going to generate from the industries or any sources? Concentration of the pollutants, duration of exposure of the human being, a state of health of the receptor, health condition of the people, age group of the receptor. That these are the factors which are going to have impact on the impact of the air pollutants on the human health. So what are the various effects of air pollution on the human health? We shall discuss in the next slide. Before that, we would like to know what do you mean by the human respiratory system, because the air pollutants are definitely going to damage our respiratory system and going to have an impact on the our lungs. So human respiratory system, we can see the diagram. Then what are the primary function of the human respiratory system is to deliver oxygen to the bloodstream and remove carbon dioxide from the body, inhaling and exhaling during, right? These two processes occur, as we know, simultaneously as the breathing cycle is repeated. Air containing oxygen flows into the nose or mouth and down through the upper airways to the alveolar region, where oxygen diffuses across the lung wall to the bloodstream. You can see alveoli. Alveoli are the microscopic air sacs, air bags in the lungs where gas exchanges are going to occur. So we shall discuss one by one about this diagram in a clear way. See, this system, the human respiratory system consists of normally three regions. The first region is the nasal, tracheobronchial, and pulmonary regions. Nasal region normally includes the nasal cavity, which connects to the pharynx, throat, right? Throat, pharynx is written here. The oral cavity, mouth, also opens in the pharynx. So nose and this mouth both are connected at this point, at pharynx point. The next region is the tracheobronchial region, also called the conducting airways. Includes trachea, that is also nothing but windpipe, bronchi. Bronchi is the plurals of bronchus, plurals of bronchus. And bronchioles, a smallest air passage in the lungs. Its main function is to conduct the air in the deeper parts of the lungs. So the last region is the pulmonary region. Is composed of the terminal of bronchi and alveolar sacs, where gas exchange with circulatory system occurs. The trachea branches into the right and left bronchi. You can see the left lung and right lung. So what it says that the trachea branches into the trachea are going to have two parts, the left side and right side. Each bronchus divides and subdivides at least 20 times. The smallest units, bronchioles, are located deep into the lungs. The bronchioles in about 3 million air sacs. You can see these are in the form of alveoli. Air sacs, the alveoli. You can see 3 millions, which normally have in contact with the blood. So we can see here the next human respiratory part of the human respiratory system. Whenever the particles are going to be inhaled by a person or a human being, in that case, the particles of about 10 micron size or micron meter are written in the nose itself. But the fine particles, which range from 0.5 to 5 micron, are deposited in the bronchioles, right? Finally, it goes to the bronchioles, but few reaches to alveoli, right? So the walls of the bronchi and bronchioles are lined with fine hair-like substructures called cilia. These cilia are responsible for removing fine particles with mucus through larynx, where this may be eliminated by swelling, right? So pharynx is a muscular funnel-shaped tube in the neck that serves as a passageway for both air and food, acting as a common component for the respiratory as well as the digestive system. Whereas the larynx is a hollow tube in the neck, middle of your neck, just above the trachea, windpipe, and throat, also called the larynx is also called as voice box. It also lets air pass from your throat to your trachea and your to your lungs. So this is about the respiratory system. So what are the effects of the human health due to the air pollution? A human can feel the eye irritation, nose and throat irritation, irritation of the respiratory tract. That's also that can also be felt by a person or human being. Hydrogen sulfide, ammonia, mercaptans causes odor. Pollens, grains initiate asthmatic attacks. High concentration of sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, particulate matter in nothing but dust, and photochemical smokes aggravate chronic pulmonary disease like bronchitis and asthma. We can see the air pollution like hydrogen fluoride causes disease of the bone disease that is called as chlorosis and mottling of the teeth. Dust particles cause respiratory diseases like silicosis and asbestosis. CO carbon monoxide has a strong F rating with the hemoglobin of the blood. So what is going to happen? The CO reacts with the hemoglobin and forms the carboxyhemoglobin. The carboxyhemoglobins reduces the oxygen carrying capacity of the blood. So this is also one of the impact of air pollution on the human health. Nasal and eye irritations can be observed if nitrogen dioxide concentration is about 15 ppm, and pulmonary discomfort a person can feel when the NO2 level is 25 ppm. You can see here lead and the benzene both are emitted from the automobiles. Lead emitted from automobiles cause gastrointestinal damage, liver and kidney damage, abnormalities in fertility and pregnancy. Mental development of children can also occur due to the lead problems. So benzene are found in from unleaded petrol, formaldehyde and particulates like polychlorinated biphenyls, PCB, toxic metals and dioxins. Dioxins from burning of polythene. Dioxins is going to emit or generate can cause the cancer in the human being. So these are the effect of air pollution on the human beings. The next is the effects on plants. So what is going to happen? How the air pollution is going to have a influence or effects on the plants? Air pollution pollutants affect plants by entering through the stomata. It is nothing but leaf pores through which gases diffuse, which destroy the chlorophyll and affect photosynthesis. During the daytime, the stomata are wide open to facilitate photosynthesis. So what is going to happen in daytimes? The air pollutants normally affect the plants by entering the through the leaves, right? That means the pollutants are going to enter in the daytime through the stomata compared to the night. More entrances of the pollution through stomata is taking place in the daytime compared to night time. So next effect we can see acid rain effect, hydrogen sulfide or nitric or this sulfuric acid H2SO4 or HNO3. Normally, as we know, the air pollutants which are going to released by any industry in the form of the sulfur dioxide or nitric oxide, nitrogen dioxide, NOx, oxides of nitrogens. During rainy seasons, it can form the sulfuric acid and nitric acids, which can lower the pH of soil and water. When it leaches, what is going to happen? It leaches the essential nutrients like calcium, magnesium from the soil. This acid rain, when it is going to fall on the plant leaves, it damage leaf cutiles, right, and washes away protective wax layers, making plants more vulnerable to damage because of the acid rain on the plant leaves. Pollutants like sulfur dioxide, ozone, and fluorides cause chlorosis. What do you mean by chlorosis? Yellowing of leaves. When the leaves are going to become yellow, that disease is called a chlorosis. Necrosis means death of tissue or dead areas of the leaves are called this disease is called a necrosis, which occur due to the air pollution. Leaf spotting. We can see nitrogen dioxide results in increased abscission, dropping of leaves, and suppressed growth also. Particulate deposited on leaves can form scales and plug the stomata and also reduce the ability of sunlight. You can see the pan, peroxyl acid and nitrate, this is the secondary pollutants, cause silvering of lower surface of the leaves, damage to young and more sensitive leaves and suppress the growth. So these are the parameters how these plants are going to be affected by the different air pollutants. The next we can see the effects on aquatic life. So air pollutants such as sulfur dioxide and oxides of nitrogen, as I told you in the previous slide, dissolve in rainwater and falls in the form of acid rain, right? Sulfuric acid or nitric acid. This acidic rain, what happens when falls in the lakes or rivers or ponds? It lowers the pH. So ultimately, it affects the aquatic life, especially fish. Many aquatic organisms like fish, plankton, and amphibians cannot survive in low pH conditions. So this is the effect of the sulfur dioxide and oxide of nitrogen on the aquatic life. Effects on materials. Effects on materials of the air pollution. So what is going to happen? Corrosion of metals. Pollutants like SO2 and NOx and forming acid rain accelerate the rusting and corrosion of metals, especially iron and steel. Metal parts of the buildings, vehicle, bridges, wires, and metallic rain tracks are going to be affected due to the corrosions, right? Next is the damage to building materials, stone and concrete. So when sulfuric acid and nitric acid falls in the form of acid rain, reacts with calcium carbonate present in the marble, limestone, and concrete. This normally forms the calcium sulfate when sulfuric acid in the form of acid rain falls on the calcium carbonate reacts with calcium carbonate. Calcium sulfate with the soft and soluble, leading to the surface erosion, loss of polish. Example is Taj Mahal in Agra, damaged by acid rain caused by emission from the nearby industry, especially by thermal power plants. So deterioration of paint and leather also takes place due to sulfuric acid formed by atmosphere SO2 and water vapors. It also damages the leather binding of the books. The pages of the books also become brittle. SO2 can affect fabric, leather, paint, and paper also. So the next is the deterioration of rubber is also going to take place due to the air pollutions like ozone in the atmosphere cause cracking of rubber. Nylon stockings are weakened and ultimately damaged. Tires of various vehicles are also going to be damaged due to the ozone. Deterioration of fabrics also takes place because of the oxides of nitrogen and ozone, which can cause fading of cotton and rayon fibers. So next we can see what are the various control measures. So in the previous slide we have discussed what are the various sources, how these air pollutants or air pollutions are going to have impact on the human health, aquatic life, plants, and materials. Now, how we can control the air pollution? What are the various control measures? So the first one is the siting of industries after proper environmental impact assessment study, as we have discussed in the EIA. So we have to, for a new industry, we have to go for the environmental impact assessment so that we can minimize the air pollution generated from a particular plants. So use of tall chimneys in industries. Already the pollution control boards have instructed the industries for the construction of the tall chimneys. So the tall chimneys, if industries is going to have a tall chimney, in that case, what is going to happen? The pollutants are going to disperse and disperse at higher height. So in that case, the dilution of pollutants will take place in the larger area. Decay of the gaseous pollutants will also take place. So in that case, the ground level concentration of the pollutants will decrease. The next modification of industrial processes to minimize the waste and pollutants. This can also help in control of air pollution. Use of low sulfur coal in industries. Removing NOx during the combustion process, controlling a flow of air and fuel industrial boilers can minimize the generation of oxides of nitrogen through the chimney. The next we can see how we can control the pollutants generated from the vehicles or automobiles. Regular servicing and tuning of vehicles are required. Use of unleaded petrol and low sulfur diesel. Installation of catalytic converters in vehicles can help in the reduction of pollutants. Promotion of public transport. Carpooling is a word. What do you mean by carpooling? That means two or more people can share a single vehicle. This can also help in the control of air pollution. And non-motorized transport like bicycles, walking, implementation of emission standards like Bharat stage norms in India. This can help in the control of air pollution generated from the automobiles. So next is the we can plant green belts, tree plantation around factories and roads to absorb pollutants. Adoption of cleaner production technology. Cleaner production technology means use fewer resources and generate less waste and emission during the manufacturing. And we can go for the renewable use of renewable energy resources like solar, wind, and hydro. This can also help in the minimization of the air pollution. Reduction of pollution at the source by installing air pollution control devices like cyclones and baghouse filters. This can trap particulate matter generated from the industries. Wet scrubbers can also be installed in the industries to control the acidic gases. In the chemical industry, this will be more helpful. And in the industry where this sulfuric acid or nitric acid are going to be manufactured, in that case, if you are going to use the wet scrubbers, it can control the minimize the sulfur dioxide and oxides of nitrogen emitted through the process and the chimney. Electricity precipitators, if you are going to install in the thermal power plants, it can remove the fine dust particles. Fly ash can be controlled. Next control measures, we can use the enforcement of environmental laws such as you know, the Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1981, the Environmental Protection Act 1986 can be implemented, or it will be implemented strictly to control the air pollution. Regular monitoring of air pollution by pollution control boards, central CPCB, Central Pollution Control Board, SPCB, State Pollution Control Boards. Imposition of penalties on industries or individual violating air quality standards. This can also help in the air pollution control. Control by public awareness is also one of the way by which we can control the air pollutions. That means environmental education to increase awareness among citizens, encouragement of community participation in air quality management. In this topic, what we discuss, what do you mean by environmental pollutions? What is air pollution? What are the various sources of air pollutions? Natural sources, man-made sources. What are the effects of air pollution on human health, aquatic life, plant, and materials? We also talked about how we can control the air pollutions. So this is all about the today lecture. Thank you.